Hi everybody, here is my video response for this week. When looking at the different resources that we had this week, I was really kind of surprised at the fact of how much in the Hall article looking at technology and the 2008 election, how much was being used, and kind of how with the article it seemed like, wow, this is a lot of technology for this. And thinking in 2017, like, oh yeah, the technology of the election, it just kind of goes together. That's just what you expect to happen. You expect, especially looking at our last election with our current President Trump tweeting a lot of the time and seeing how that's just kind of become a normalcy of how technology is integrated into an election. And yet to look back to just over 8 years ago and see how this medium of the internet and how it interacted with all these different pieces was kind of new in how elections were run and how it's really just grown and become a part of our lives since then. The other thing that really stood out to me this week was looking at creating a blended classroom and those types of things and how much a plan needs to be in place. There are so many great ideas on how to integrate that into a classroom, be it at an elementary school level or even in a college. But if there's not a plan and there's not an idea of what you're trying to do in place, the entire picture and the entire piece, it's not going to work. You might see a great idea where someone's using tablets in their room and it's like, oh, cool, tablets are awesome, and jump on the tablet bandwagon only to find out that in your situation and in your setting, the tablet doesn't actually do what you want it to do. Or the type of learning that you're trying to work with isn't actually working with that type of student or in that way. Or it might be that you want to do a rotational classroom, but there's not the space. And so really looking at what you have, what resources are available, and where you want to go to really create the best picture and the best idea possible for your classroom. That's one of the other things that really stood out to me this week. When looking at how videos sharing and things like that fit into my teaching setting, I really would love to be working alongside a professor and helping them with their classroom. And I think it just makes a great fit in a couple of different ways. One being that students are able to share information in a succinct way that they might not be able to say themselves. They might be looking at a mathematical topic and not quite being able to figure out how to say it themselves or how to understand the problem, but find someone else who's maybe made a YouTube video on how to use that equation or that problem and can then bring it to the class and be like, hey, here's a 2 or 3 minute video on how to do this. That makes sense, that's well thought out, that's well said. I think it also allows for really succinct coverage on topics that are sometimes overwhelming. Um, there are people who make great videos that take big topics and really boil them down, kind of like what I was saying before, but not necessarily even on a specific topic, or on it could be a broad thing as well as something that's really specific in what it's doing. I think it's also a great way that students can be able to share what they're doing and the different people that they're interacting with and make sure that everyone is able to see it. If a student's in a classroom setting or there's a professor giving a lecture and maybe they're not there to that day because they're sick or something's come up, or somebody gave a speech and they really liked part of it but they don't know, can't remember all the details to it, and may or may not want to go up to the student and ask again, having a video of whether it's their presentation or a lecture or different things like that can be a great tool for different students to be able to go in and dig deep and really help them to be able to have all the resources that they might need for that class and be able to dig into it and really just, share what they have with not only their class but the entire world. Two of the videos that I really came across this week that I liked were, one was a set of videos that was just a college lecture, and the different students were talking about their thesis projects and what they were going to do with them. And I thought for being in a college setting, that would be something that would be great to just be like, here are 4 or 5 different ideas that these students are using in their thesis, and here's how they're presenting them. And so as a student who could be working on that or trying to think of maybe an undergrad, do I want to go towards that or don't I want to go towards that? to be able to have a resource to say, hey, this is something that I could do, or this is a good idea. I like where they're going with that. Maybe I could do something similar, or oh, now that I've kind of seen what this project's going to look like and just even their beginning steps, I'm not sure that's the route that I want to take with my education, or maybe I want to go do something different. And the other video that I really liked was one on a TED Talk looking at strokes, and just being able to take this topic that people don't necessarily think about or might not necessarily find interesting, and to be able to give it really life and depth and a body through the professionalism and the background of the person who is giving this information. I think that the TED Talks really in general do a great job of bringing in a topic that you might not think about in your everyday life, but looking at it and allowing people to say, oh, I see somewhere we could go with this. That's something that intrigues me and helps me to want to dig deeper. And I think that's something resource-wise that's important for students to be able to have, is different videos that make them want to learn more than what they've just learned. When I look at how I think video would be assessed in my classroom, I think that there would be probably a couple of different places that I would use it. First of all, I think that it would just be assessed on whether it came in or not, to get partial points for that. And then I would probably have part of a rubric looking at the content that the student was assessing. Are they talking about things that are important for the class? Are they talking about things that I've asked them to talk about in the video? And then the depth at which they are going into the video. It would be one thing to say, let's talk about cats, and someone says, hi, my name's John, and I have a cat. He's brown, and then to end the video. And while the student will have completed each and every step, saying their name, talking about cats, they haven't really delved into a depth with the topic. And so making sure that there's a rubric that would be able to say, not necessarily say 5 sentences and get 5 points, and say 3 sentences and only get 4 points, but to look at and make sure that it's clear that the depth of the conversation and the depth of the information that you want as a professor or as a teacher is there, so that the students are able to clearly see, okay, I need to be talking about this topic, but I need to be knowledgeable about it and not just stating what I am saying and then moving on. Yeah, with these resources that we had over these last couple of weeks, looking at that and the different pieces of it, I think there are a couple really good connections that I made. The blog videos on the Que Tal La Semana videos, I thought were just an excellent idea that could be used, especially in like a large lecture hall style class where the professor might have 50 to 100 students in their class, and where it's more difficult to be able to learn each of the students and learn their names. So to be able to have this video where maybe it's for a larger class, like 100, once a month, where by the first of every month they have to send in a video, and maybe there's 3 things they have to talk about. They have to give their name, a little background about themselves, and something about the class. Whether it's a topic that's been being discussed in class, or whether it's just something that is more general and trying to help the students figure out what they're looking at. And with that, kind of looking back at the rubric, I would probably say, hey, it has to be at least a 3-minute video. These are the things that need to be included to get full points, and then let the students go from there. The other thing that I really liked was just looking at how